Good afternoon. Welcome back to the podcasting bi-weekly training tip. And today we're going to speak about motivation and self-discipline. The podcasting bi-weekly training tip is sponsored by Passionate World Talk Radio Network to educate, to enlighten, to entertain. And I am Lillian S. Cauldwell, your host. So what is it about motivation that motivates somebody to do what they need to do? They know they need to do it. It's not because their mom and dad are standing over you, or your wife or your husband is pleading with you, or your kids are trying to give you a tough love in reverse, because that's what you do when you try to motivate them to, yes, let's do our homework. Although today's schoolroom, most of the students tend to do their homework in homeroom or in study room, or they don't have any homework to do at home. So that takes care of that. But you still have lack of motivation. Why is it? What makes you want to do something and you're all fired up and ready to go? And then when you sit down to address it, your motivation flees. All of a sudden, you're starting the lament of the procrastination journey. So what is it? Procrastination, lack of self-motivation, lost your interest, and you're thinking, Lillian, what does this have to do with podcasting? And I'm going to tell you plain and simple, it has a lot to do with podcasting, especially the discipline of podcasting. Now, you probably won't hear too many people tell you that or enlighten you on that subject, but I'm telling you right now, you can't always go outside of your own sphere to get motivated to get something accomplished. Look at me, prime example of knowing I have things to do, but for whatever the reason, I find more things to not do it than actually sit down and do it. And then you say, but Lillian, how do you get anything accomplished? And I tell you, it's really very basic. You have to have a good talk with yourself. So you can use a mirror, you can use a stuffed animal and throw your voice if you're gifted that way. Or you can just give yourself a stern lecture knowing that the results probably will not produce anything. So let me put it this way. If you do not motivate yourself and do your program at the time and day designated to do that particular podcast, you will lose your audience. Audiences are like pets. You can train them to show up on the same day at the same time that you put out your podcast, whether it's live or on demand. Interesting thought. Pavlov had a couple of theories about that in dogs. But the idea is if you build something and the potential audience comes, they don't expect it. They demand that you appear on the day and the time you said you would be there. And let's face it, folks, you can do a live program ahead of time, make it into a video, make it into an audio, and hello, you can schedule it out. And no one will be the wiser that you recorded that video or audio 2, 3, 4 months ahead of time, because you know that when that time came that you absolutely have to do a live video, you're going to be out of town, you're going to be at a conference, you're going to be at Comic-Con, you're going to be voting, you're going to go marketing, you need to take your kid to the dentist, or you're just saying, I'm having a bad hair day, and go to the bar and drown your sorrows. Whatever your excuses are, you have already done the work. That's called discipline. Something that you know it needs to be done, and you need to do it with your usual involvement and passion. Hey, I get it. It's difficult to show up week in and week out and keep on giving your content and make it interesting enough. I spend a lot of time at YouTube and on Spreaker and Audio Acrobat to take a look at my stats to remind me that it's not about me, it's about the content, stupid. And whether your potential audience is picking up on what you're spending so many hours to put together. And if there's not, it's time to change your strategy. Now, I know motivation is very difficult, especially during the summer, especially during holidays, especially during the Olympics coming this summer, or because you have a hot date or you're too tired. I think you could probably sit down and think of 12 billion excuses within 20 seconds with no problem whatsoever. However, on the flip side, I'm pretty sure that trying to come up with good motivational words, keywords, or key phrases to keep you online to do what you need to do is a bit more difficult. So what's the solution? My tip is you need to give yourself a cheering up talk, or find a movie that's so depressing that you turn it on via Netflix or via Hulu or via Amazon Prime, watch it for several minutes and say, I can't stand this. This is too turgid. I'm going to have to do something practical like my podcast, or write up my podcast, or go and do some research for my podcast, something that will spur you into motion. And it's not going to happen overnight. I know my kid used to wait until the last possible second before he would sit down and study for a test, cram it, come home with an A, and 24 hours later, he was just as ignorant as he was before he sat down to start studying for the test. Why do teachers give tests? Well, first of all, they hope it's a motivational factor for you to learn. But the other thing is they want to make sure that whatever you learn, you retain. And yes, this all leads back to motivation. Because if you're not motivated, your brain becomes lazy and starts looking for shortcuts. So the next time you have a podcast to put together in any way, shape, or form, just remember this. You need to do the work yourself. Yes, you can have AI help you. Wonderful tool, but it is a tool. It's not supposed to take over your mind, or worse, become your mind. Because AI is a combination of millions of voices contributing their expertise and knowledge. It is not your voice. So, motivation, discipline, and let's not forget practice. Also, do not forget that on June 11th, which is a Tuesday, and June 13th, which is a Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern, the podcasting obstacle course intro webinar discusses 3 primary topics: the 7 C's of communication, the art of the interview, the host giving an interview and the host being interviewed, and mastering people skills, to give you a foretaste. And if you want to go over to education.passionateworldtalkradio.com/mastersclass. And if you want to take it a step further, sign up for the training course, which you can also find at education.passionateworldtalkradio.com/masterclass. And it will tell you what you're needed to invest to learn how to become the greatest podcast tour that the world has ever seen. What do you get in return? A certificate of completion, 3 weeks of airing your 3 podcasts that you've put together, a potential internship position at PWTRN for 3 months, with the possibility and or potential to be asked to become a permanent host at PWTRN. 176 countries, more than 1 million listeners. Think about it. And then go over to https://education.passionateworldtalkradio.com and find out what you can do, not only with your voice, but with your expertise. Thank you and have a great week.